execution time, the process which requires less execution time is taken for execution first. Okay. And if you consider this policy as the name itself indicates, the shortest processes, the processes which require less time, they are favored by the policy. Okay. And one more problem we may face while using shortest request next, as priority is given to the shortest processes, it may so happen that a steady stream of short requests or processes, if they keep on arriving continuously in the system, the long processes, the processes which require more time, they may not get chance to execute. It may form a queue of long processes and their execution might be denied. Okay, this particular situation or phenomena we call it as it is known as starvation. Okay, so starvation is nothing but it is a queue of long processes built whose execution is denied. Okay. Okay, in the today's class, I'm planning to take an example on shortest request next policy. Along with that, we are also going to discuss about some of the preemptive scheduling policies. Okay. Okay, again, we'll take this example. Here, we have a set of processes, say P1, P2, P3, P4, P5, and the arrival time for each of the process is given, and also he has given the service time. Arrival time, try to recall, it is denoted by using symbol AI. AI means arrival time, and the service time we denote by using symbol XI, and CI indicates the completion time. Okay. So that P1, it arrives at time equal to 0, P2 at time equal to 2, then P3 at time equal to 3, P4 at 5, and the process P5, it arrives at time equal to 9. And also in the next row, he has given service time, that is time required for each process to complete its execution once it gets CPU by the operating system. Okay. Okay, now again the question is, our task is, we are supposed to calculate mean turnaround time and mean weighted turnaround time. Okay, so we use the same table as we have seen in the case of first come first serve policy. Here in the first column, we note down the time values. In next part, we note down the information about the completed process, that is ID of the process, turnaround time, weighted turnaround time, and next here in this column, we just note down about the processes which are present in the system, and in the last column we just mention the process which is scheduled, means process which is to be executed. Okay, again we start with time equal to 0, but remember in case of shortest request next policy, the shortest of arrived request is chosen first. Try to understand, the shortest request from the arrived request means in the processes which are existing in the system, out of those, the process which requires less time is chosen for execution. Okay, so again we start with time equal to 0. So at time equal to 0, just we have switch on the system and none of the process will be able to complete, so we can leave these columns blank. Now at time equal to 0, can you tell me which process is scheduled or which process will be there in the system?
P3, sir.
Okay, just think and tell me. Take some time, no problem. At time equal to 0, which process will be there in the system first?
P1.
Try to understand.
P1, sir. P1.
Only process P1 will be there in the system, right? Now we are at time equal to 0. Okay, at time equal to 0, which process is chosen for execution? Whether it will be P1 or P3. Whether
P3, sir. P3, sir.
It is P3. Okay, any other answers, students? Okay, it is not P3, it is P1. Can anyone tell why? Because here the operating system will choose that process which is existing in the system, right? Okay, please try to understand at time equal to 0, we have only process P1, right? Shortest of arrived request is chosen first. But in the list of arrived request, we have only process P1. P3 has not yet submitted, right? P3, it will be submitted at time equal to 3. That's why, students, please try to understand. We choose process P1 for execution. I hope you are understanding the concept. As policy schedules shortest of arrived requests, as we have only P1 process in the system, only P1 is chosen for execution, right? Okay, once P1 is chosen for execution, can you tell me how much time it requires? P1 requires 3 units of time. This time 0 indicates that P1 has started its execution. Okay. So now when it is going to complete, it requires 3 units of time. So here on the time axis we have to write 3, right?
3.
Now I can see that at time equal to 3, P1 has completed its execution, and the turnaround time for P1 is Ci minus Ai. That is 3 minus 0. Completion time is 3. At time 3, P1 has completed its execution. The turnaround time for P1 is completion time, that is this 3 minus arrival time of P1. So that 3 minus 0, we get 3.
3.
Next, weighted turnaround time. It is a ratio of turnaround time divided by execution time. So turnaround time for P1 is 3 and the execution time for P1 is also 3. So that we get 3 by 3. That is, we get
1, sir.
1, sir.
Good. Very good. Okay, now can anyone tell which of the processes will be there in the system at time equal to 3? By time equal to 3,
P2 and P3, sir.
yes, we get processes P2
P2 and P3.
P3. Because P1 has completed its execution, so we get only processes P2 and P3. But now you have to decide which process is to be chosen for execution. Anyone?
P3, sir.
Okay. Whether P2 or P3?
P2,
P3,
sir.
sir.
P2, sir.
No, P3 will be chosen. Try to understand. Right now we have two processes, P2 and P3 in the system. But out of P2 and P3, which requires less execution time? Just look at the problem. P2 requires 3 units. P3 requires 2 units. As P3 requires less execution time, P3 is chosen for the execution. That's why in the last column, I have to write process scheduled as P3. Are you understanding? Right now, we have P2 and P3 in the system. But out of these two, the shortest request is the process P3 because P3 requires 2 units. P2 requires 3 units of time to complete its execution. That's why we choose P3. Okay, once P3 is chosen at time equal to 3, how much time it requires to complete it?
5, sir.
Yes, what should be the next value? It will complete at time equal to 5. Because you have started P3 at time equal to 3, it requires 2 units of time. 3 plus 2, we get 5. So at time equal to 5, we can write which process completed? P3. Right?
P3, sir.
P3 has completed.
Yes,
what is the turnaround time for P3? It is Ci minus Ai. Completion time of P3 is 5. But what is the arrival time of P3? Just look at the table. It is 3, right?
2,
5
sir.
minus 3, we get how much? 2,
2,
right?
sir.
The turnaround time for process P3 is 2. Okay, what about weighted turnaround time for that process?
1, sir.
It is 2 divided by 2 because the turnaround time for P3 is 2 and also the service time for P3 is 2. 2 by 2 we get again 1.
1.
Then now by time equal to 5, which processes we find in the system? Still
P2 and P4, sir.
they are P2 and P4.
P4, sir.
by time equal to 5, there is possibility of having 4 processes P1, P2, P3, P4. But
P4, sir.
already P1, P3 they have completed their execution. That's why we write only process P2 and P4 as processes in the system, right? Okay, now out of P2 and P4, which process is chosen for execution? Just look at
P2,
the
sir.
service time.
P2, sir.
P2 requires 3 units, P4 requires 5 units. That's why we have to choose P2.
P2.
Right. Okay, once P2 is chosen for execution at time equal to 5, when it is going to complete? 5 at time
8,
5
sir.
now started P2. So at time 8 it is going to complete because P2 requires how many units of time? 3 units of time. 5 plus 3, it will be 8. So at time equal to 8, I can say that the process P2 has completed its execution. Then what is the turnaround time for P2? It is completion time of P2
6, sir.
is 8 minus arrival time of P2 is how much? 2, right? So 8 minus 2 we get how much?
6. sir.
Okay, what is the weighted turnaround time? It is 6 divided by how much? 6 divided by
1.5, sir.
1.5. Just check it out.
6 by 3, sir.
2, sir.
Yes,
Two,
it
sir.
is 6.
Two, sir.
Yes, 6 divided
Two,
by
sir.
3. Right. The turnaround time for P2 is 6 and the execution time for P2 is how much? 3. 6 by 3, we get 2.
2, sir.
Yes. Now by time equal to 8, how many processes will be there in the system?
P4, sir.
Only P4 will
P4,
be there. What about P5? P5 has not yet arrived because it will arrive at time equal to 9. We have considered the processes which are there at time equal to 8. By time equal to 8 up to P4, if we consider P1, P2, P3, they have completed their execution. So only P4 is there in the system. So we choose which process we have to choose. We have to choose process P4 for execution. Right. What should be the next value on the time axis? 8 plus how much time P4 requires?
13, sir.
It is 13, right? So P4, it has started at time equal to 8 and P4 it requires 5 units of time. 8 plus 5, we get 13. So by time equal to 13, P4 will complete its execution, right? What is the turnaround time for P4 then? It is 13 minus arrival time
8,
of
sir.
P5.
8,
Nine.
sir.
It is 8, right? 13 minus 9. Okay, will it be 8? Just check it out.
13 minus 5.
13 minus
13 minus 5, sir. P4, sir. P4.
yes, P4 is 13 minus 5. That's why it is 8, right? Okay, what is weighted turnaround time then? It is
8 divided by 5, sir.
8 divided by 5. How much it is? 1 point?
1.6.
1.6.
Yes, 1.6 we get. Okay, now by time equal to 13, which process will be there in the system?
P5, sir.
Only P5 has remained. Okay, yes. So now P5 we choose for execution, right? Then what should be the next value on the time axis?
16.
It is P5
16,
will
sir.
start at time equal to 13. So
16.
it will complete its execution at time equal to 16. So P5 has completed. Then the turnaround time for process P5 is 16 minus how much?
9.
9, sir. 16 minus 9.
16 minus 9. So what is the value we get?
7, sir.
7.
Yes. Now, what is the weighted turnaround time? It is 7 divided by how much?
3, sir.
7 by 3 is how much it is?
2.33.
Yes, 2.33 we get. And by time equal to 16, none of the process will remain there in the system. We'll leave this column blank. And also we'll leave this column blank because none of the process can be scheduled now. Okay. What is the next task? You have to calculate sum of turnaround time of all the 5 processes and calculate the average. Similarly, calculate sum of weighted turnaround time of all the processes and calculate the average. Okay, what is the sum for turnaround time? You just add up these values.
27.
Plus 2, 5, plus 6, 11, 19, 19 plus 7. How much it is? 26. Is it
26,
correct?
26, sir.
Yes. Okay, now similarly, you just add up these values and tell me the result.
7.9.
It is
7.9.
7.93.
We get 7.93. Then we calculate the mean turnaround time. What is the mean turnaround time?
5.1.
Mean turnaround time equal to,
4.2, sir.
it is 26 divided by 5. How much we get? 5.2.
5.2, sir.
We get 5.2 seconds. If the unit is seconds, we get 5.2 seconds. Then similarly, what about mean weighted turnaround time? Anyone? Turnaround,
7.993 divided by 5, sir.
yes, 7.93 divided by 5. How much we get? It is
1.5.
1.58.
okay. 1. Approximately here in the textbook has given 1.59. Right? We get the result as 1.59. Okay, students, this is how to solve the problems based on shortest request next. So what you have to remember is, according to the policy, the shortest of arrived request is considered for execution, right? Shortest of arrived request is considered for execution. Okay, please practice these problems so you can understand how this policy works. Okay, now I'm going to switch the screen. Please wait for a minute. So I'm going to share the next screen. Please wait for a minute. Okay, is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Right. Okay, right now we have discussed about non-preemptive scheduling policies. Okay. We have 2 policies for the syllabus. One is first come, first serve, and second one is shortest request next. And similarly, we also have preemptive scheduling policies. So as we discussed in the last classes, preemptive scheduling policies are those in which the processes can be preempted, means they can be suspended before their completion and next process can be chosen for execution. Okay, this preempted process or suspended process can be executed in its next turn. Okay, that kind of policies we call as preemptive scheduling policies. Okay, here for the syllabus, you have 2 preemptive scheduling policies for study. One is the round robin scheduling policy, which is also called as RR policy. It means round robin scheduling policy, right? Okay, mainly the goal of round robin scheduling policy is to provide fair service to all the processes. The round robin policy, it has the goal to see that all the processes, they must get fair service, so that all the programs, all the jobs or all the user requests, they must be executed with same priority, right? There will be no high priority or low priority. All the programs, all the processes, they must be executed with equal priority. That is, they must get fair service from the operating system, right? Here in this case, the processes, they are executed in the circular fashion for small period of time called time slice. Okay, round robin means the processes they are executed in the circular fashion one by one, but however each process is executed only for a small period of time, say maybe for a few milliseconds of time or few nanosecond of time. Okay, that time we call it as time slice. Okay, so already we have discussed this concept in case of time sharing system. Okay, and the effectiveness of the round robin policy, it depends on two important factors. One is time slice, and also it depends on nature of the process. Okay, just try to recall what happens if time slice is very small. If time slice is very small, all the programs, they get very good response time. The switching between the processes takes place very fast, but however the CPU efficiency reduces because most of the time will be spent in switching from one process to other process. Very small amount of time is used for execution of the processes. Most of the time is spent while switching from one process to other process if the time slice is very small. Okay, if the time slice is large, the possibility that most of the processes, they may not utilize this complete time slice. They may complete their execution well within the time slice, and the response time, the waiting time for all the processes will be more. Okay. On the other hand, the effectiveness of round robin policy also depends on nature of the processes. Okay. Here, nature of process means whether the process is CPU bound or whether it is IO bound. Try to recall, CPU bound process is one which include lot of CPU instructions and very less input-output instructions. On the other hand, the IO bound programs are those which include lot of input-output operation instructions and very less CPU-related instructions. So in case of round-robin policy, no doubt, the IO-bound processes may lag behind the CPU-bound processes because the CPU-bound processes may utilize the complete time slice. Say for example, you assume that you have given time slice equal to 2 milliseconds. If a process has lot of CPU operations, no doubt that process will be able to make use of that 2 milliseconds of time completely. But however, if you have IO-bound programs, they may not utilize the CPU for complete 2 milliseconds of time. Before completing the time slice, say 2 milliseconds of time, they may require input-output operation. So that in that case, the CPU is preempted from those processes and will be allocated to next programs. That's why we say that the input-output processes, the IO-bound programs or processes, they may lag behind the CPU-bound processes. This is all about round-robin scheduling. Okay, so remember the round-robin scheduling. The goal is to provide fair service to all the processes. Here, the processes, they are executed in the circular fashion. That's why we call it as round-robin. But however, each process is executed only for a small period of time called time slice. Here, all the users, they will be under the impression that the CPU is completely dedicated for them. They may not notice the switching of the processes. Okay. And the effectiveness of this round-robin policy depends on two factors, that is time slice and also nature of the process. If time slice is small, the switching will be more, so CPU efficiency will be less, but however, each user is going to get fast response time. And it also depends on nature of the process. Nature of the process means process whether it is CPU bound or IO bound. So in case of round robin policy, the IO bound processes, they may lag behind CPU bound processes. Okay, next policy we have is least completed next. Okay, whether screen is visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Least completed next, right? Okay, this is also one of the preemptive scheduling policy, no doubt. In this case, the policy schedules that particular process which has consumed least amount of CPU time. Try to understand. This policy is going to look at the process which consumes least amount of CPU time. The process which has consumed less amount of CPU time is scheduled first. Say for example, you assume that you have three processes. P1 has consumed 1 unit of time, P2 has consumed 2 unit of time, and P3 has consumed 0 amount of time. Are you understanding? P1 has consumed 1 unit of time, P2 has consumed 2 units of time, and P3 has consumed 0 amount of CPU time. Out of these three, which should be executed first?
P3, sir.
Yes, P3 should be executed first because as P3 has consumed 0 amount of time, it will be taken first. Okay? The policy is simple. It schedules that particular process which has consumed least amount of CPU time. Thus, in this policy, the nature of the process does not influence on its progress. Means this policy is independent of whether the process is CPU bound or IO bound. The process may be either CPU bound or IO bound. It won't influence on the progress of the processes. Okay. Here, all the processes, they make approximately equal progress. Means all the processes, they may get approximately equal opportunity for execution. Okay. And one more observation that we can make is the short processes, they are guaranteed to finish ahead of long processes. As least completed next, as the name itself indicates, the short processes, they are guaranteed to finish ahead of long processes. Okay. Again, this policy, it may lead to starvation because it is going to neglect the existing processes. This particular policy, it neglects existing processes and always it schedules the process which has consumed least amount of CPU time. Okay. If new processes, if they keep on arriving into the system continuously, it leads to starvation because the existing processes, they need to wait for longer time and they may not get chance to execute. That's why, again, this policy may lead to a phenomena called starvation. Okay. Okay, just remember these points. What are the points we have? It employs preemptive scheduling policy. It schedules that particular process which has consumed least amount of CPU time. The nature of the process does not influence on its progress in case of LCN policy. And here, all the processes, they make approximately equal progress. And we can assure that the shortest processes, they are going to complete, they are going to finish ahead of long processes. And as the policy neglects existing processes, there is a chance that the new processes, they may keep on arriving into the system and the existing processes, they may not get chance to execute. A queue of existing processes may be built up and it may lead to the phenomena called starvation. Okay. Okay, any doubts, students? If you have any doubts, you can ask me.
No, sir. No doubt, sir.